Are you ready?
Yep.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning in some cases. Allen Linn, author of the Bible Explained. Also, Overcoming the Darkness through the Great Commission. Most, how can I put it? Poetic speaker of the Bible that I've ever met in my life. Not only that, just the greatest scholar of the Bible I've ever met in my life.
Cece, you're being nice. You don't know better.
Gotta separate the dogs. 1 second.
All right, go there. Go over there.
All right. Anyways, so we're gonna be speaking about evolution today. One thing we're gonna be going over is who started it. So let's start off with that question. Where did the theory of the Big Bang come?
They had to come up with something. If there's no God, they have to come up with some reason. So this thing the size of a dot exploded, and this nothing became everything. Without God. So
who created this dot?
They don't know. It's just a big bunch of everything was just condensed into this dot. It exploded, and that's a big bang, and it's just started everything.
Just appeared out of thin air.
Yeah.
Huh. Very interesting.
Or thick air.
So what time era was this that it was first theorized? Should I put?
It depends. They say it keeps backing up. It started out with like 100 million years. Now it's billions of years.
Just right.
The more but the biggest thing against evolution is the intermediate fossils. For instance, reptiles evolved into mammals. It took 120 years to do that. And
that's
yet,
it?
120 million years.
Oh, 120 million years.
Yeah, and when everything, but all we have is reptiles and
monkeys.
Mammals. Reptiles and mammals. That's all we have. We don't. Where is the intermediate between mammals and reptiles? In other words, for 120 million years, reptiles were evolving into mammals. There should be.
And in between?
There should be reptiles and then a little bit of mammal, a little more, and then mammals. But you don't. You have reptiles and you have mammals, full-blown mammals, full-blown reptiles. And there is no intermediates between anything. None of the fossils show any intermediary transitional forms. And there should be millions of them. In fact, there shouldn't be any full-blown reptiles. There shouldn't be any full-blown mammals because reptiles were constantly evolving into mammals, and then they were constantly evolving. So there should never be a mammal or a reptile. There should be a reptile changing into a mammal, then a mammal changing into something. There should never be a set species if evolution is true.
Could they have been looking at the birth of a person coming from a sperm into an egg, and the sperm was a reptile and then a human, and in the womb it did its million years of...
They have a theory where a dinosaur laid an egg and a bird flew out. But why do they come up with that?
Is that a pterodactyl?
Why did they come up with a bird who flew out of a dinosaur egg? They had to, because the intermediary, there is no transitional forms. In other words, they said it took 120 million years. Now they change and they say, well, since there's no evidence for evolution, we'll have to make up a story that kind of makes sense. So instead of reptiles evolving into mammals or dinosaurs evolving into birds, hey, a dinosaur laid an egg and a bird flew out. And why do they believe that? Because
They're fools.
their other theory didn't work.
Which was?
That they gradually evolved. Well, since now that there's no evidence for a gradually evolving into something else, now it has to be instantaneous evolution. But the main thing is, if there's no evidence for evolution, they have to make up a story that makes sense to you. So a dinosaur laid an egg and a bird flew out. And presto change. They made a book of that for kids. The dinosaur, a bird flying out of a dinosaur egg. And presto change. And one day, I guess...
Who's the author of that?
I guess two apes had sex, and how come a human being?
Oh, because they didn't have in-betweens either for that.
They must, yep. And they're looking for they say the missing link. There's millions of them. We got a dinosaur and a mammal. There should be millions of transitional forms in the fossil record. And the evolutionist paleontologists will tell you there should be millions of them. Darwin, he speculated, he said, now at the time of Darwin, they didn't have paleontology. That's a new science that started after Darwin to try to find out the fossil records. Darwin said there must be trillions of transitional forms. He said literally billions of them. And there are exactly none.
Not one.
So there's 120 million years of evolution from a dinosaur to a mammal, and there's no transitional forms. None.
So how do they timestamp fossils? And isn't it true that a fossil is actually impossible to take time to become a fossil, or anything to become a fossil, due to the fact that it would disintegrate before it's...
They would be disintegrated. A bird dies and becomes a fossil. Ridiculous. Some other animal will eat that bird when it dies. The bird will rot. He won't become a fossil. Fossils have to be buried quickly, instantly. Like in a universal flood would bury millions of fossils instantly underground from the tidal waves going on the shore, burying all these animals. And then what else would come from that? Well, let's see. Oil for one thing. Well, where did all this oil come from? They said it took billions of years. When Mount St. Helens exploded, within weeks, they found fossils. So, and the guy who did Mount St. Helens, he went out there, he's an evolutionist, and he said that totally changed his mind.
Do you know what his name was?
Steve Austin.
Huh.
Not the $6 million man, but the same name. And they also found coral, which the scientists, evolutionists said it took millions of years for coral to form. Coral, and there it was. And then they had trees in the bottom of the ocean, the big lake, because they floated, and then the trees went down and buried the roots, because the trees got waterlogged, and because there was millions of trees there, and they all went down, and they're in the bottom of the lake, and they're growing forests in the bottom of the ocean. And evolutionists said it took millions of years for that. And Austin said there it was right in front of them.
There's forests under the ocean?
No, forests under the lake by Mount St. Helens. Because when the trees and that all blew from the volcano, they floated and they become waterlogged, and the trees sank down and the bottom went into the ground. And He said it took like 6 weeks. There
was trees growing under the lake.
they weren't growing. They were growing up here, and then they went down and rooted into the ground. It looked like they were growing from the bottom
But
of the
they
ocean.
rerooted themselves. Kind of like transporting a plant.
Yep.
Basically, same thing.
And they found, they say that they don't know how that happened, but now we know.
So back to time stamping. There's a story of a scientist that wasn't adequate with the timestamp on a fossil that he had, so he kept sending it in. You know?
Yeah, the guy put a fossil on his desk and said, "Date this." And
Do you have any names?
I don't remember the names, but the guy dated it and put it on the desk. And the next day he come in and his boss put the fossil down on the ground and said, "Date this." And he said, "I did date it." He said, "Date it." And he dated it and sent it back. And next day it was on his desk again. And finally the guy said, "Well, okay, now this is supposed to be the expert. He's doing the dating." And he asks his boss, he says, "Well, how old is this?" And he says, "It's hundreds of millions of years old." So the guy stamped it 100 million and they put it out there. The guy said he just did what he was supposed to do. So that's the whole thing. They say it had to have taken millions of years, so obviously it's for millions of years old. And yet with the dating methods, we have dated living snails that were supposed to be hundreds of thousands of years old. They're living. So there's something wrong with the dating system. It's good for dating on certain things, but not on living things.
I don't know, I think I've driven behind a couple of them snails before, Alien.
Yes.
Evolution could be possible if they drive that slow. I'm just kidding. Obviously.
But they found many things that they found out was like the electrical magnetic field.
All right.
They say that can't be more than 10,000 years old. That says Earth's magnetic field can't be more than 10,000 years ago, because if they back up more than 10,000 years, the magnetic field would be so powerful, the Earth would explode. That's top scientists say that. So what does that tell you? Well, the scientists would have to say, well, maybe we're not 10,000 years old. Maybe we're not as old as we think we are. Because the aging is based upon, well, it evolves slowly. If it evolves slowly, then we think, well, we must be, I think it started out with like 1.3 billion, and now it's like 22 billion years. It keeps getting bigger and bigger because they keep thinking, well, it must have took longer and longer and longer. But there really is no scientific really evidence for evolution.
Could it be possible that they just forgot the D at the beginning of it?
The what?
The D at the beginning of the de-evolution. Things devolve and don't evolve.
Well, and then here's another thing. We go back 5,000 years, and we get the highest things of civilization that it didn't go back to the Stone Age. Some things did, but after the flood, people would be living in caves. They had no homes, and they had to build their homes. Adam and Eve, when their descendants slept. So there would be stuff like, there's people living in caves today. There is. I used to tell people, and they say they find a wooden hammer, and then a certain other, and they say, see, this shows the progress of civilization. This is a primitive thing. This is a more modern tool. And yet, go over to Ridgedale Shopping Center, big, huge shopping center. They got medical everything over there. All right, if there was a sudden catastrophe over there and everything was buried, and 50 years they start digging to it and they say, oh man, this is millions of years old. Because here it starts out with a hammer with a wooden handle. Now this is probably a million years old, and then it evolved, and then you see here's hammers with steel handles, just one part piece of metal. Now, this shows the progress of civilization over millions of years. But it don't. It's all happened originally at the same period. A wooden hammer with a wooden handle, and that would be all through the history of how we do it now.
What the laws of biogenesis? Can you explain that?
Law of biogenesis is very simple. Life can only come from life. You cannot get life from dead matter.
That's proven.
That's one of the first laws of thermodynamics. Life can only come from life. So think about that. Where did life come from? It came from, your parents. Your parents' life came from their parent, their parent, their parent, their parent, their parents. Eventually, you have to come across an eternal source of life, because if life wasn't always here, it can't be here now. Since life can only come from life, there has to be a source of life. And the source of life, according to the law of biogenesis, has to be eternal. Because if there was ever a period when there was no life, there could be none now. Why? Because life can only come from life. So that's pretty scientific evidence. And the law of entropy is another thing that goes against evolution. Evolution says we evolved and we got bigger, more complex. No, when you look at everything, when a car, put a brand new car out there, and they say the sun give it energy, and that was energy for evolution. Put a new car out in the yard and let it park it there for 30 years. And you're going to get an old rusty. It goes down. It doesn't evolve upward. The Bible says sin corrupted everything and brings it down. Human beings, they get old, they die. They don't get better. You don't put an old rusty car out and say, watch evolution, and then pretty soon they get a new car. No, it's the opposite. The opposite of evolution. It don't get more complex. It gets less and less and less complex.
What is their actual definition of evolution?
The actual devolution.
That too, the devolution, because that should be what it's called, is devolution.
Definition is the progress of life from small amoebas up to, actually they have to say from dead matter, because those amoebas had to come from dead matter. And unless there's an eternal source of life somewhere, then it could have come from life. But unless there is a God who's eternal, life had to come from dead matter.
So who have you researched? What are the biggest names that you researched and studied to find out the flaws in their...
I can't even think of half of them.
Who are the greatest minds, supposedly the greatest minds behind the writings on the
Well,
wall?
Richard Dawkins, Carl Sagan, but there's some like one, he just died a little bit ago. I don't know. I've studied so many of them that Allen was one. But I studied the ones in their own fields. When I studied evolution of mammals, I went to the top scientists of the mammals, and they all say, well, this is what typical of what they'd say. There is no evidence in the fossil record of any evolution from dinosaurs and the birds. But we will just have to speculate on how it happened. So here's what they're saying. They're saying there's no evidence that it ever happened. So we'll just have to speculate that how it happened. If there's no evidence that it happened, how can you? In other words, their imagination has to imagine how it happened because there's no evidence. Evidence But scientific evidence is based upon proven, observable methods, and that's what there is no observable. Evolution is not taking place today. But scientists will fool you, and they'll say, well, we know there's evolution, but they'll have a different term, because evolution in one sense means change. Of course there's change, but it's not change from the simple to complex. Things go from complex to simple. They break down, things age and die. They don't get better, they get worse.
So Sir Arthur Eddington called it the supreme metaphysical law.
Yep, the law of thermodynamics.
Dr. Gish writes, if evolution really believed in the laws of science, they would abandon their religious faith in evolution.
Right.
He was an evolutionist at first?
Dwayne Gish, I don't know if he ever was, but he's not one now.
What are the biggest pitfalls of evolution that you believe?
The fossil record. They got the Cambrian explosion is called, and that's where right down to the bottom of the earth where the rock is, where the oldest mammals are supposed to be. You know what they got? Exactly the same life forms they got today. That's all to the Cambrian explosion, and they say, scientists say, well, that's one of the mysteries is Cambrian explosion. It's only a mystery because there shouldn't be a Cambrian explosion and they shouldn't look like the ones today because it's been supposedly about 22 billion years between the ground and what we got now. And yet they say, well, that's a mystery. It's not a mystery. It's a mystery if you're determined that evolution happened and it didn't, then of course it's a mystery how it happened if it never happened. And it had to have happened.
So what are the mathematical odds of evolution even ever taking place?
They say the mathematical probability of evolution ever taking place, and this is in a single cell, they say it would be equivalent to 1 followed by 150 zeros. Now, if that number is bigger than if you to break down the entire universe into protons, it wouldn't be that big of a number, 150 zeros.
What happens to scientists usually when they try to prove evolution? Such as the one that went over there. Where was which volcano erupted?
Mount St. Helens.
Yeah,
a lot of them go.
What scientist was that? Those over there said become anymore. Did he become a Christian?
Yeah.
He did.
Yes, he. I'm trying to think of a couple others. But yeah, they. And then there's Brown, his first name. But he wrote a book and he showed that he worked for NASA and he said he studied the oceans and that, and he said anyway he comes to the conclusion that there was a universal flood. He said the evidence is everywhere. He said if you follow the earth, you'll see a crack all around the earth. And he said that's what started when the problems of the deep were broken up.
Where the water
started raining. It came from the subterranean channel. He said it started out as a crack that went around the world. And he said you could see that. It looks like the seam of a baseball. And he said that would let up all the water and it gushed up hundreds of feet in the air and it overwhelmed. And he went through all the evidence, but there was astounding. And he quit. He was an evolutionist, and he quit his job and went strictly into creation.
Would you explain for us evolution and the laws of cause and effect, please?
Well, cause and effect is, for instance, they say the sun would be enough power to generate evolution. But you need more than power. Look, I want my office vacuumed. You know
I thought
what?
I did yesterday.
If I get an elephant, you think an elephant's strong enough? You think that's enough power to vacuum this?
Oh yeah.
Well, what's the problem? He has the power. He don't have the intelligence. So
He might suck everything up. They do have those big chunks.
but he destroyed the
You're
would
also
not do it.
being wrong.
So, in order for evolution to happen, there would have to be intelligence design, intelligence in it. An elephant has plenty of power to vacuum my house, but he doesn't have the intelligence. He would destroy it. And that's the thing. Evolution without intelligence is destructive. And yet, here we got everything here like this, like it is.
Wow. That's very well put, by the way.
You see that bookcase?
Yep.
That started out as just a little twig on a tree. Yeah, and over about, oh man, I think it was probably like 40 million years. And then that first one started bringing the second shelf, third shelf. And after like 50 million years, the third shelf, and there it was. Man, it was worth waiting for, though.
He almost died waiting for that thing.
Yeah.
Are there new theories on evolution besides instantaneous?
No, that's still the new theory. Well, some say that, and this is controversial between the scientists. Some say that maybe an alien from another planet brought it here. But here's the strange thing. When we want to look at Mars, they say, maybe Mars will give us the secret of Earth's evolution. Why go to Mars? We know it happened here. That's what they tell you. We know that we evolved. Why do you have to go to Mars to see how we evolved? It should be right here how we evolved. Why do they go to Mars to see if we can get a secret on evolution? Because they know it never happened here. And there is no evidence for it here. So they got to go someplace else to find evidence for it.
Why, on God's green earth, was Christ removed from schools and evolution put in his place? And evolution is nothing more than mere theory.
Because the liberals come up with a theory, totally unsustainable, that the founding fathers did not want religion in the schools. So they took it out and they put their own religion in. Because evolution is a religion, it's a faith. Somehow it happened. We don't know. There's no evidence for it, but yet we know it happened. So evolution brought their own creator in. Huxley said, my creator, my divine thing is
Nothing?
no, it's evolution. It's natural selection. So that is my deity. So since there is no deities, they invented one, and now they teach that in the school. Instead of the eternal almighty God, we get natural selection. That's our God.
So, pretty deep stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that, based on evolution, besides pulling people away from God in the schools, and through our whole country, in fact?
The only thing that explains life on this earth with not only ability, but with intelligence, with thinking, people on this planet who aren't just walking around, but they can think. There has to be a creator who himself thinks and enables us to think. only that explains creation with thinking and intelligent design. And that is why we can understand. Why can people go around the universe and science and they understand stars and all that? Well, if we come from nothing and all these things are billions, how come we can? Because God created our minds. The same God created our minds that created the universe. So we do grasp a lot of things that otherwise would not be possible to grasp. So mankind is, but the Bible says when man became its own God, that's when we collapse. And that's the whole point of evolution. They must come up with a way of things happening without God. Okay, now if there's no God, wow, okay, now imagine there's no God. Automatically you're going to come up with some pretty stupid ideas. I know everything evolved, collapsed into a dot this big. Well, wait a minute. Where did the everything come from? Well, we're not going to, no, don't mention that. Just forget that. Now, it all collided into a little dot. But where did all the stuff that went into that dot come from? Don't ask me stupid questions. Just let me tell you my story. This is what happened. Everything climbed to this little dot, and this dot exploded. So in other words, nothing went into a dot, and this nothing exploded, and we got everything from nothing.
So what's the purpose of evolution?
Try to explain life without God.
Which does?
Which gets rid of God. Enables man to live for himself with his own plans without an accountability to God. I can sin, I can do all the things I want, and when I die, I don't have to face this holy, righteous God.
So let's talk about the influences of and philosophies of evolution.
Hitler believed in it. Hitler believed that the strong dominated the weak. That's what evolution, natural selection, the strong, survival of the fittest. And he believed his armies would conquer the world and they would, but he believed in fact, Darwin, he wanted, when Mein Kampf, or not Mein Kampf, but Das Kapital. When he wrote that, which was the beginning of communism, he wanted to dedicate it to Charles Darwin, because Darwin, and that turned into communism. So a lot of bad things happen. The whole philosophy that the weak, in many countries, in the Russian, the communist countries, you get a weak, you kill them. You get mentally, you kill them. And Hitler said that Christianity was a feeble religion because it protected the weak, when the weak should be crushed and done away with. He believed that when someone's mentally, you get rid of them, you kill them, so you protect the race. But the Bible says protect the weak. Hitler said kill them so the strong dominate the universe and the world, and it becomes, but totally opposite of what the Bible teaches. So abortion, we got to kill all the little babies. Why? Well, because evolution, we don't want to overpopulate, and that's the damage that evolution did. And they even asked Huxley, what made you, the people, Thomas Huxley, what made him jump at evolution so quickly? And he said, because it freed our sexual mores, or our sexual morals. We could free us to have sex with anybody we wanted. That's what he said.
Manly with men, pretty much.
No, with women too. There's no accountability to God. I can sleep with any woman I want, anywhere, anytime. There's no accountability. That's what he wanted. It freed their sexual mores, There's no accountability to God. I can do what I want. That is the definition of sin, doing what I want to do.
So, the biblical account of creation, is there any?
Of course, it's a biblical account of creation.
I mean, evolution.
Biblical account of evolution?
Yeah. Does the Bible talk about evolution at all?
No. It says, in the beginning, God created. Creation and evolution are two opposite poles apart. Creation and evolution come from nothing, evolved. Creation took intelligence, an almighty God creating it instantly, not over billions of years, but he instantly created the universe.
So, you shredded apart evolution, pretty much. So, what could you say to balance out for the proof of creation?
Proof of creation is
Besides the prophecies in the Old Testament, which is all coming true. How many prophecies are coming true out of the Old Testament, give or take?
hundreds of them, more than that, thousands. The greatest evidence for creation is the creation. We're here. We're here. We're here.
I don't know, Alex. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm here.
We're here. Where did all this stuff come from? Well, where did it come from? From this little dot. And this little dot was nothing. And all this nothing was compressed into this dot. And this nothing exploded and we got everything. That's silly. But yet it's the best thing that scientists can come up with. The best minds on this planet. Get rid of God. Come on. How did we come here? Well, all this nothing was concentrated in this little dot. And then this dot exploded. And even they must have said, but that don't make no sense. And they'll say, don't bring that up. Just say it, because people won't believe it. That's what Hitler said. He said, the people, when you lie, make it big enough and they'll believe it. That's what evolution is, the big lie.
Repeat that.
Hitler said it. You want to make up a big story and you want people to believe it. Make the lie big enough, make it huge, and then they'll believe it. And evolution is the big lie.
Just made me think of a couple other stories. When did he say that, give or take? 42, 44, most likely. Was it during the war, before the war?
No, it was when he was a dictator, before the war. And he
so
did.
30s probably.
He told the Germans a huge lie. He said the Jews are inferior. They were causing all their problems. Hitler thought, well, hey, and the Jews, well, half the Jews didn't believe it, but they had no strength. They couldn't resist it. A lot of the Germans, the people, but Hitler dominated the world. And that's one of the consequences of evolution. So is communism. Communism is all of us getting together. That's why God broke up the Tower of Babel. When mankind gets together, bad things happen. Communism said we're all going to be equal together. And look at the horror and the terror of communism. America was what you get, what you work for, you get each one. And that comes from the Bible. We got our capitalistic system from the Bible. The Bible says in many places, it said it was yours. You earned it, it was yours. They told when Ananias and Sapphira, they pretended to give all their earnings, and they pretended to give it all, and they said, no, you didn't give it all. It was yours to give. Why did you lie? Why didn't you? You didn't have to give it. Well, that's capitalism. Communism is everything you do, it all comes in one big pot. No, Christianity says, no, you earned it, it's yours. You had it right, you didn't have to lie about it. I mean, that's all through the scriptures.
Well, I think you pretty much said it all. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
When you get rid of God, you get rid of human dignity. You get gas chambers for the Jews, you get slaughters for them. You get rid of human dignity. There is no human dignity without God. Why is there dignity with God? Because we were created in God's image, and you don't hurt God's image. And God says he holds us accountable. He said, a man who kills a man himself will forfeit his life. And that's where we're degrading more and more. Why is abortion so common? Because it's convenient. Hey, I can have sex all I want. I'll just kill the little rat now. It's just a little blob of nothing. And then I can have sex with this person, we get it framed. Just kill the baby. Because life has no meaning without God.
Yeah, as we said, I think about these kids that are growing up for many years so far. And the belief system of God just removed from them and taught this to them in school. And just they're growing up and they have no morals, as I said before. And the sex is out of control. I mean, it's 2018. There's kids having babies 14 years old, even younger. And they're having the abortions to get rid of them.
That's why they can have it. Kids say, hey, we'll have sex if anything happens. We'll just kill the baby.
So let's talk about the separation of church and state.
Separation of church and state was a liberal invention.
Which took place.
The Supreme Court come up with this silly thing that the founding fathers wanted the separation of church and state. Now they did, in the sense that, they meant, here's what the Supreme Court changed it into. The founding fathers said, we will have the separation of church and state, meaning the church cannot, or the state cannot come in and dictate to the church what it must believe and teach and all that. So that's what separation of church and state is. The liberals got together and the Supreme Court said, no, we're going to change it and say separation of church and state. The church can't interfere with the state, and they can't pray in the schools. They can't do it because the separation of church and state. And they just turned it on its head.
When did this take place?
In the 1940 something, and then they come up with evolution as abortion on demand. You can kill your baby just because you wanna. I mean, that's human law. That's law without God.
And they made that possible by changing the name of a human instead of a person to
a fetus. A fetus is a French word and it means baby. But we say fetus because it takes people's minds off of it. Oh, we didn't kill that baby. It was just a fetus. But the fetus word, we use the French word, and then people won't know what it means. And it's just a blob. Just a blob. And the Jews were just inferior because evolution, they evolved. They were one of the inferior ones, and the Germans crushed them, got them out. Because if the Jews bred, since they're inferior in their eyes, it degrades humanity. The more imbeciles that are born, humanity. And Margaret Sanger came in and said, the human weeds, those are blacks, Mexicans, things who were not like her. Those are the ones they established abortion for and brought in these clinics. Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger called them human weeds, so we got to get rid of them. And they're degrading humanity. She even commented on Hitler, commended him for getting rid of the inferior, because he killed in communism. You get a baby with a handicap, you kill him.
Who's that squeaking noise coming from? Oh, it's you. I thought it was the dogs. I'm like, the dogs aren't moving. Good, guys. Knock these pictures over. Well, I think we'll leave it at that. Unless you have anything else to add again. That was things come in my mind after speaking about other things, so I hate to leave this on.
Without God, nothing has any meaning. Nothing has any sense to it. It's that simple. And society collapses when they remove God. And we're collapsing.
Especially after been pushing a gay agenda over the last several years.
Yeah. Anything against the Bible now is considered great, wonderful. As long as it ain't in the Bible.
Let's talk about the gay agenda. So, what usually happens to powers when the gay agenda is pushed? And give an example, if you would.
When it's pushed,
They're opened and looked upon as the norm, should I say.
The society degenerates into homosexuality. But now society wants to say, wait a minute, homosexuality must be good. Why do they say that? Because the Bible says it's not good. And therefore, since we're so brilliant, we got to get rid of God, separate the church and state. Anything that has to do with God, we got to get rid of. They even had a judge said he told the guy, give him the death penalty. And he said, God have mercy on your soul. He said, you got together, they threw the verdict out. The guy walked free. He was a murderer. But the judge, they said, had no right to say, God have mercy on your soul. And they let the guy walk. That's how society gets when they get rid of God. They get stupid. That's what they get. The Bible said they thought they were wise, but they became fools. That's what happens when you become an atheist.
Well, it's always a pleasure interviewing you, as always, Al. Little Al, by the way. In the meanwhile, God bless, and may you find Jesus.